Make sure you're liking and following the Gray Area page so that you never miss an update or a live. And you ready to jump into episode 2?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you know your mic is only for the phone, not the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you was kind of low.
On
You
what?
know you had that little baritone. You got to project it a little bit for the computer.
Oh, you saying I was talking low?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so we're gonna jump on right on air. Y'all make sure that you are sharing the live as always. Be sure to drop your questions, comments. If you are watching this on replay, put hashtag life in the gray so that we know that you tapped in. And so we're gonna get started. So hoy hablamos de comunicación. ¿Cuál crees que es el mayor problema de comunicación?
Bueno. Bueno.
¿Puedes oírme?
Buenas noches.
Dime, ¿cuál crees que es el mayor problema de comunicación?
Hakuna Matata? I don't know.
¿Por qué no me estás respondiendo?
Pardúdame?
Oh my gosh, dime. ¿Puedes oírme? So I didn't tell him I was going to do that, right? So I wanted to start off with a demonstration of why communication is not always the key, right? Because communication is simply the exchange of information. Okay, talk about presence one for English.
Right.
It is the sending and receiving of information. I sent information to him. He received it, right? He responded to me, but he did not comprehend what I was saying. And so oftentimes as partners, we are not always speaking the same language. Right? We are communicating all day long. We are talking all day long.
And we could possibly be saying the same thing.
We could possibly be saying the same thing, but we cannot understand each other, and that lack of comprehension keeps us from making the choices that promote forward progress. So, yes, episode 2 is when communication isn't the key, achieving clarity in our conversations.
Yes.
And so we're talking about not just communication, but we're talking about effective communication. And so if he's not understanding what I'm saying and I am not understanding what he is saying, then the communication is ineffective. And thus it's not enough.
Nope.
It isn't the key, right? Clarity is the key. So I'm gonna ask you all this. What is the number one cited reason for divorce in the United States? Put it in the comments. I'm gonna give y'all a hint. I'm gonna give you a hint. What is the number one cited reason for divorce in the United States?
I think it's finance.
You think it's finances?
I think it's finances.
I'm gonna give you a hint. It's our topic today.
I think it's finance.
It's communication. Communication aligned reasons make up 67.5% of all divorces. And infidelity is about 30%. So, yeah, 2/3 of divorce is rooted in communication issues. And so that's why we are talking about this. That's why it's our first official episode. It is wild. Because again, a lot of communication is happening, but a clarity is not being achieved. And so we need a translator, right? So if I would have had a translator here with me and I was saying what I was saying, the translator could have told you that I said,
yeah.
What do you think is the biggest problem in communication? And so what we're seeking to do is to share with you the tools that we have developed over the course of our marriage to be those translators for us. And so we have been developing skills and building our toolbox, and that toolbox then acts as a translator because a lot of things hinder clarity, right? And so irreconcilable differences, absolutely. Irreconcilable differences. That's what they say. That's what all that communication stuff falls up under. We can't figure it out. We can't get on the same page. We can't talk to each other. We are not achieving clarity in these conversations. And so, what we've done is we've built a toolbox of translators. And so these translators, these skills help us to understand what each one is saying so that we can achieve that clarity. So
Yeah.
here are some warning signs. If this is happening in your relationship, you may be experiencing communication. And also to note, these are issues that develop and persist over time. So this is not something that happens in a month. Y'all, my sinuses, y'all have to excuse me. I'm not doing coke.
Hmm.
These are things that happen over time. And so here's some warning signs that you may want to pay attention to if you're experiencing them. Blaming each other instead of being focused on solutions. Being overly critical of each other. So one partner or both partners being very critical of each other.
Yeah.
So a lack of praise or positive feedback in your day-to-day conversations.
Affirmation.
Yeah, not affirming each other, not validating each other. Silent treatment. So when you all when you all are not talking about the issues,
No communication.
when you're not talking, right? When one person shuts down or both people shut down, and then mind reading. And so approaching conversations as if you already know what I'm going to say, as if you know what I'm thinking. And so, babe, we talked about some of the barriers to effective communication. And so what we'll do is we'll talk through some of these and just share some of the strategies that has worked for us. And so I just want to ask you, of the barriers that we kind of talked about, which one do you think was our biggest barrier? And how did it affect you in the relationship?
I think I don't know. I don't think it was one particular. I don't think it was one particular
Mm-hmm.
one. I think it was just a combination of various ones over a period of time. Um, because I know sometimes I approach conversations like I already knew what you was gonna say. Then I know for me, when I'm frustrated or overwhelmed, I get quiet. I don't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? I go into my own little world and be by myself. So I'm not communicating. So that, what I'm saying, can trigger something on her end. And now she's, what I'm saying, ineffectively communicating. So it's just, yeah, I think it's a combination of a few of them. Do you have one particular one that you think?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So
I figured you say that.
we talked about some barriers to effective communication. They are safety, so a lack of physical or emotional safety. If that person does not feel safe, that hinders communication. Also, making assumptions. That's kind of like the mind reading. And so coming into the space with what I call a dirty filter. So when your filter is dirty, everything that comes through that filter is going to be tainted. So if I have past trauma that I have not confronted, or I have certain assumptions about this kind of man or this kind of situation, then my filter is dirty. So I'm not even coming to the conversation with a clean slate. So everything that comes through that filter is going to be tainted by my experiences. And so that's huge. Um, so communication styles. When you just have a different style of communication, we know some families they're naturally loud and they talk loud or they talk with their hands and they
Boisterous.
really, um, or some folks are more equipped to share via writing, which I know is for a long time was you. And so just those different styles and having styles that conflict, right? If I'm the kind of person that I believe we need to get it out right then, like we need to talk right now, and then but my partner is like, no, I need a minute, like I need some time to process. Those incongruities can cause barriers in conflict as well. Distraction, interruption
Yeah.
are a barrier, and I put intentions as well because, and this is why this is mine. So at first I was gonna say like that emotional safety piece,
Mm.
because we talked about that last night or
Yeah.
the other night. If you don't feel safe to really share from your heart, then you won't. But if I'm honest with myself, and this took me being honest, you say that's me right now. It took me being honest. You have to come to the space with the right intentions for the
Yeah.
conversation.
That's true.
And so, if my intention, and so for a long time, when we were struggling with communication, I will own that a lot of it was because my intention wasn't to achieve the goal that was best for the both of us.
Mm.
My intention was to not be wrong
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
conversation, right? And so when I really started to think about that, like no matter what was said, if it made me look bad, then I was fool with, and it created a barrier for us. And so, your intention has to be, you have to see yourself as a team. I want to be, and not even the argument, Crystal. I had this intense need to protect my image, who I saw myself as.
Mm.
I am the baby of my family. I have always gotten my way. I'm spoiled, and I don't want nobody to tell me that I'm wrong. He was always the problem for me. So if I'm approaching the conversation, I'm approaching it like he the problem. So come on, let's get through. Let's get on to the nitty gritty because I can't be the problem. It has to be him. And so, being somebody trying to get me to see where I was wrong, oh baby, we shutting that down. I don't care nothing about. I don't care nothing about what you talking about because I'm not wrong. And so, I think making sure that your intention is clear when you approach the conversation. You can't approach the conversation wanting to be right more than you want to be healed and you want to be
Yeah.
whole with your partner.
Yeah. I mean, I think we both were like that. I think it like I said, a combination of things. Because at times, like I would come into it same way, like man, nah,
Oh, absolutely.
very defensive. You know what I'm saying? Like when you come into one of those times where y'all having a disagreement or whatever, and you instantly come into it on the defense, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever they say, you just listening to respond just to make sure like nah I'm gonna get mine off, you know what I'm saying? So that right there in itself is gonna create a problem because you're not coming into it right anyway. So when you come out the gate wrong, you're gonna end wrong, you know what I'm saying? So when you got two people doing that, then it's always gonna be kind of a disaster, for lack of a better word. So
So our really confronting our issues started in 2020 for us. And so it's been like a 3 year kind of journey. Started about March 2020. And we just could not get on the same page for communication. I'm talking about we was talking all the time and it was not getting us anywhere. So that's when we decided to go to couples therapy to get a couples therapist.
mm,
And she became our translator, right? So she started to help us understand what the other one was saying. And that's when I began to notice my intentions were wrong. And so I actually elected to, I said, I can't do couples therapy. So I quit. I said, I can't do this because I realized that I needed to go to individual therapy. That it wasn't until I got my stuff together as as a woman, as a person, I couldn't even bring the right energy to the space to have a collective conversation. And so that's why for me, intentions were the biggest barrier, because my heart wasn't right. And if my heart wasn't right, it didn't matter what you said, I
yeah,
wasn't gonna hear it.
you want to
So
receive it, or you know what I'm
mhm.
saying? And it's twofold because not only am I not receiving, now I'm again you know what I'm saying, feeling some type of way. So now, you know what I'm saying, that alters my mood and my thought process. You know what I'm saying? Just a snowball of effects emotionally. So in turn, you know what I'm saying, now I'm gonna be acting a certain way and I'm gonna be, snappy and, mean or, whatever the case may be, is just gonna always it pays twofold with that type of situation. Again, when you don't come into a situation right, it's just it's not gonna work.
So we got into some heated arguments
Yeah.
after therapy. Baby, that lady been stirred some up. And then let us go back to our baby. You talk about get to your corner, I get to my corner because we was going. Um, but let's talk about some of the strategies that we use to overcome some of this stuff. So let's start with physical and emotional safety. So I added physical safety because obviously that's a barrier. It wasn't a barrier for us, right? I never felt physically unsafe. But if you've dealt with any domestic violence, either in your past or your current relationship, or you have a very um, um physically what am I trying to say? A partner that gets riled up, they
Aggressive.
aggressive, they throw things, they break things when they're upset, or they yell. And it becomes this very intimidating space for you. That is obviously going to be a barrier.
Yeah.
And that person needs their own individual therapy and counseling to process how to have a conversation without having to control the atmosphere and the
Yeah.
environment in that way. But for me, emotional safety was huge because and this goes back to attachment styles, and we're not gonna talk about it. But if y'all don't know y'all attachment style, don't do that.
What I didn't even say
Don't do that. You
I
said you
said
was,
no.
I
I was getting
something.
I was not about to say. I was just getting comfortable. I
Yeah,
wasn't about to say nothing. See, I ain't even do nothing.
yeah. I'm gonna put the quiz in the chat. But so your attachment style has to do with how you relate to your caregivers. And then that relationship usually spills over into your romantic relationships. And so there's 4 different kinds of attachment styles. I happen to be what is known as fearful avoidant. Um, and it is somebody who really desires closeness, but because of fear, because of past experiences, I also reject. I have trust issues, right? And so it becomes these. She's talking about leave pot too long. It becomes this push pull for me, right? Of this self fulfilling prophecy of I want you close, but then you get close and I get scared and I kind of push you away. And so because of my particular style, I need to feel emotionally safe, especially if I'm being vulnerable. And my friend wasn't always giving me that emotional security in our conversations, and so I was shut down. And so what we began doing is something that what I realized is effective communication across the board, no matter where you are, right? So it doesn't have to be particularly this is for married couples. Being an effective communicator is they're the same
at
skills
work,
no matter at work, wherever you are,
with
in
your
your friendships, with
children.
your yes, absolutely. And so this is something that we do at work. It's called a micro yes. And a micro yes is when you give that person a heads up that the conversation is coming, and you allow them to buy into the conversation. Hey, when you get a moment, can we talk about that from yesterday? Because when you have time, when it's good for you, would you mind? Do you have time to talk to me? Right? That's a micro yes. Giving them a heads up so then they can emotionally prepare for the conversation. Instead, sometimes when we're upset, we come and say, I need to talk to you about that. We got to talk.
I
Don't
find
we
it
do
funny
that?
that I find it real funny that
I just find it funny how.
don't get you just come in the
Right.
room, don't give you no type of warning, don't say hi, don't speak, nothing. I just find it real funny how, excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah. So what's that? What is our natural response to that? Defensiveness. Because we're gonna feel attacked. And we're going to now feel like we have to defend ourselves. Yep. So we're going to deflect. We're going to deny. We are no longer open to hear what it is the other person has to say because we did not have a chance to emotionally ready ourselves for the conversation. Right. So micro yesing is really important, especially when it's a tough conversation. And so this has been really, really huge for us because I don't see Phil. We sometimes flip from like the gender norms. Phil is the I want to talk and I want to talk right now person, and I'm the you got to give me a minute. Yeah. So him starting to micro yes me created that space and that emotional security for me to be safe to come into the conversation. And vice versa. It's a few times where I've done that to you and been like, yeah, you know.
And then even and to go into another one is when you micro yes, that gives you an opportunity to really kind of sift through your feelings and give you a chance to make sure that you're speaking from a place where you feel. So I statements, we use I statements. So when we come into a conversation, you know what I'm saying, we don't say, when you do this, you know what I'm saying, this is what it is or this happens. And, you know, we say, well, I feel like, or I think, or when you do that, this is how I feel. And it gives them the feeling, you know, they don't feel like attacked. They don't feel like they're backed into a corner, and it leaves it on you more than them. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. It doesn't feel like you're just standing in the spotlight or under a microscope. So when you use I state, that's what we had to learn. That was one of the tools we picked up in couples therapy early, to start using I statements. So yeah, I feel like when you say this or when you do this, you know, this is where my mind goes and I don't like it. And you know what I'm saying? So it gives everybody the opportunity to kind of like just step back and like, okay, you know what I'm saying? It's just creating more, again, it's creating space for clarity to be achieved.
Yeah. Yeah. Crystal said, "God got me real good about rushing Willie to talk on my terms." So this is what a lot of people don't realize is that the male and female brain, they process information at different time rates. And so females can process their emotions in about, don't quote me, but it's like minutes. It's like 10, 20 minutes. The female brain can take in a situation, process it, and spit out their emotions. But why, though? And be able to articulate. You gotta say why, though. Why? Because we're able to, our brains.
Because I use both sides.
We use both sides of our brains.
So
we is not going all the way into
no, but it's important though.
I know, but I didn't prepare for that, so I don't want to be trying to teach the people. And
I'm just saying, like, that's important to know that females process with both sides of their brains, right, opposed to their male counterparts who are more focused on one side, either side.
So the female brain, right? So there's a logical side, and then there's a more emotional, creative side. The female brain, like the pathways between both brains, they're easier, right? So women can go from both sides of their brains a lot quicker than men. Men tend to stay on one side at a time,
which is the more logical.
They're either the more logical side, and they have trouble. That's why they have trouble putting their emotions to words, because those are on different sides of the brain. And so the words are on one side, the emotions are on another side. Female brains can go back and forth very easily. Male brains struggle. And so we're like, what you got to say? How you feel? Talk to me. Say something. Why you ain't got nothing to say? And they literally are struggling to go to the other side and take that thing that they're feeling and put it into words. And so they need hours. Where we need minutes to do that, they need hours to be able to do that. And so another strategy that we use is a journal. And so I noticed very early, and this is really good. This is why it's important to know your partner. and to understand their strengths. Early on, Phil was much better at communicating via writing. I would notice when we would be together in person, he would not be as communicative. When he would be on the phone and he would be texting me, I mean, he was spilling his heart out. Um, and come on, Catrice, Catrice, teach about the left and the right side. Since you got to help me, I hope I did it right. Um, but he would be on his phone. He could feel his heart, and I was like, wow, he really communicates better via writing. And so we started using a journal. And so we still we don't use it as much because we've gotten into a good space where we can communicate directly. But for a long time, we would use that journal to communicate with each other. And if it was something that was hard to say, I would write it in the journal or he'd write it in the journal. We'd leave it somewhere where the other would find it. And that person had 72 hours to respond.
Yeah.
Now I got 3 days to hear what you said. I don't have to get defensive because you're not in front of me. So I don't feel attacked. There's nothing to defend because I'm by myself and I'm processing it. And so before I just say something, I get a chance to feel your feelings. I get to validate your feelings. I get to understand my own feelings. And then I get to respond when it feels safe for me. And it just really disarms everything, being able to say those things in the journal and having the time to process. So that's another way we kind of navigate it.
And I think just, even taking the journaling piece out, giving your partner the opportunity and space and time to process, even yourself sometimes, because, even when I was in that space where I wanted to talk about it right now, I wasn't ready to talk about it. Honestly, you know what I'm saying? Because I hadn't fully processed what I was feeling, what was said. And, like I'm just talking from a place of, again, like I don't want to look a certain way. I don't like the way this makes me feel. And, you know what I'm saying? I personally think that in those moments, you need to give yourself and your spouse the time to hear what you said, process it, and respond. You know what I'm saying? And not respond just from, a place of, again, defensiveness or not wanting to be, wrong or look a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Just giving them that opportunity to just come down from the emotions, being high and, being in a better headspace. And then like, okay, let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Nina said, I messed up with rapid fire responses. That time is needed for us both. Thanks for this. Now I have to work on patience and controlling my emotions in that moment. That's just what he was saying. You need the time too. Um, Brandon needs the time to process, but you do too, and you need time to come down, and so you can really discern what you're feeling from the truth. And sometimes our feelings blur the truth.
And you really got to know yourself too, because if you're the type of person that is really like, I guess you could say, if you love hard or all in, you're very passionate. And that passion sometimes can take over in the wrong moment. And those are the moments where most of the time we want a response right now. We want to talk right now. We want to get straight to it. And those are the same moments where you need to, you know what, I need to step back, think about this process, give myself and my partner time to, just calm down and really be logical and process these things.
Nina said, "Stop telling my business, bro." Y'all share the live. Make sure you share the live. Another thing is when we've had to have tough conversations. So let's say we wrote in the journal, we had to share some really tough things, and now because we've kind of processed in the journal, we're ready to come together and talk. So we might go back and forth a little bit on the journal, and then we get to a space where we both feel safe enough to talk. Right. So there's that micro yes. Hey, let me know when you're ready to talk about, what we've been writing about in the journal. So now we've both processed, we've had a time to understand our own emotions, to try to better understand our partner. Now we micro yes, and we've come to a space where we both feel safe and secure. Another thing that we do is we touch, we maintain physical touch while we're having these tough conversations. Now, this is really for me. So again, I'm a fearful, avoided attachment style. I I want to be close, but I also have these trust things, right? And so this keeps me safe when he's touching me, even though what we're talking about might be difficult. I know he's still here, right? I don't feel abandoned in my feelings. I don't feel rejected. I don't feel those negative feelings that sometimes creep up because we're touching. And so this is really important. He knows me because another thing is to really know your partner's triggers before you start having these
Mm-hmm.
conversations. And because he knows now that I need this, even when I could be upset, I could be a wreck. He knows I need to touch her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And sometimes as men, especially because I'm just speaking as a woman, sometimes you all might want to approach us, but because it just looks so like volatile,
Volatile.
you like, do I need to touch her right now? So now he can push through those insecurities and give me what I need in the moment, even though my body language is telling him the opposite.
Yeah. And like again, knowing your partner, because that's not every woman,
Right.
because sometimes you might want to step back because she just not in that headspace right now, and you're not the most favorable person in front of her right now. So again, knowing the audience is very important, and because you know the audience, you know how to maneuver in those tough times. So you can, let me just grab her or put
Mm.
my hand on her leg, or,
Mhm.
put my hand on her or hug her or grab her
Yeah.
and pull her into me, or, like, hey, I'm gonna go sit over here. Whenever you're ready, come sit next to me. If
Mhm.
she's not that person that needs that physical touch in that moment, you know what I'm saying? Just again, that's the affirmation part. Hey, when you ready,
Mhm.
I'll be over here. Come sit next to me and we could talk. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, the communication is ever so present. Like it's consistent. It's
Mhm.
always gonna be there. Like it don't stop. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You always communicating.
Yeah, even when it's nonverbal. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So just keep that in mind. When you're
Body
not saying
language.
body language,
Yeah.
eye contact,
Mhm.
or when you come in the house, walking by, smack her on the booty. You know what I'm saying? That
No, for real.
it is what it is in public. You know what I'm saying? Like just grab a cheek.
So
Who
anyway,
cares?
coming back to the topic at hand, we're gonna talk about intimacy a little later. Um, so this is a one that we all know, but sometimes we forget. So it's a just good reminder to avoid absolutes when we're having conversations, right? So if you never do this, you always do that. You always
That was me. That was me.
come on,
I
tell me this.
I was I was that man. You always, man. Every time you,
Yeah,
that was definitely me. And like we picked up a lot of stuff in couples therapy.
yeah,
So that was something that I struggled with at first, but now understanding, what I'm saying, how that could kind of push away and shut your partner down because now they feel attacked.
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I don't
yeah,
never do right. I can't never get it
yeah,
together. I'm always wrong.
yep. And you're not giving yourself the opportunity to, be fair, even, and honest, and not have to come back and retract certain stuff you
Hmm.
said, or come back and have to do more apologizing. Like, so when you use absolutes like that is something that can take a small altercation and turn it into a
Yeah,
major problem.
absolutely. And we're still talking about y'all. We just on the first barrier, so we might have to do a part two for communication because we're still talking about emotional safety, and this one is huge, and we are guilty of it a lot. You have to be careful that in your defensiveness and in your need to not be seen as a bad guy or the bad person in the situation, that you do not gaslight your partner.
Mm,
And so,
yeah.
what does this look like? Gaslighting is essentially when you knowingly make it seem as if the person you're talking to is crazy. I mean, essentially, that's what it is.
Like, what you talking about?
If you if your partner brings you something and say, this made me feel this way, and you do not take the space and time to validate that person's feelings, even if you don't agree, and this was huge for us, learning how to validate each other even when we don't agree.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry that that made you feel like that. I didn't mean, that was not my intention, love. I would never want to make you feel like that, and I understand why that would be hurtful.
And that was me too. I was really, really good at gaslighting. And didn't know it. I didn't know it. I was really good at it. So, at first I didn't even understand what it meant. First of all, that's the first issue. I didn't know. I had no idea that there was even that it even existed. Then when I heard it, I didn't know what it meant. And then when I found out what it meant, I was like, oh, I do that often, pretty often, if you will. So, yeah, it sucks, and and didn't know on the other side that saying sometimes I feel gaslighted too. So not only am I the aggressor, you know what I'm saying, I'm also um, on the receiving end of that as well, and didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say like, hey, this is making me feel like you gaslighting me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't even, express that to her because I didn't know what it was. But she knew,
And a lot of times, because of women, not always, but because we're often more emotionally intelligent than our partners, we use that to our advantage. And we manipulate them emotionally because we know that they don't have language all the time to call us out on what it is we're doing. And because we know that, we use it to our advantage. And so we want to make sure that we're creating spaces that not only we feel safe, but that we are creating safe spaces for our partners, especially as women, because absolutely, Nina, we know how we have the language, we have the words, and we use that sometimes as weapons, and not tools. And so, yeah, gaslighting and pretending as if you have no idea what the person is talking about, or making it seem as if your intentions were always super pure, and so you're just overreacting. You're overreacting. Oh, you're emotional. Oh, you must be coming on your period. Oh, you must have had a bad day at work, and you take what the person is saying and you put it back on them as if it's all in their mind,
Yep.
and there is no validity to what they're saying. That is gaslighting, and it
Yeah.
is a no.
Definitely.
Cut the lie. Crystal said you telling too much.
Said, pull the
Oh
plug.
yes, Nina, I'm guilty of that to win a fight. Absolutely, but see what this one does. I've taught him now because he pays attention to me and because he knows me so well. Oh, he's learned how to give it back to me. And baby, I'll be sitting there like, wait a minute. Hold on, Mr. Pontoo, how you know what that means?
Grasshopper. The student has become the teacher. Okay, because she was good at it. And then I had so when I finally learned what it was, I had to go back and be like, wait a minute, now not only was I doing it, but now ma'am, Miss Ma'am. So it is very, very important to know and understand and not saying that even when you know what it is and understand what it is that you won't do it, but
Right.
when you do know, when you know better, you do better. So
Yeah.
when you hear yourself in those moments, like, okay, let me stop.
Yeah.
Let me,
I
okay.
apologize.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
those moments, because it's you know, you're gonna always have rifts in your communication.
Yeah.
But again, the biggest thing is correction and clarify to get clarity. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, she was definitely a professional, all pro on Madden, if you will, Hall of Fame.
Not too much, not. And so, but also just knowing, just back to the triggers, it helps when you're having a conversation and you do know the triggers, because you can give that person an opportunity to pivot. So if you see your partner, you all are having a tough conversation and you see them going into the defaults, into their coping, into whatever they default to, you can call it out, safely. Love, I know that sometimes when I say this, that makes you feel away. I don't want you to feel away. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think I feel like I've triggered you, right? And you start calling it out before they even have to tell you. And then it becomes like hey, I am triggered. Yeah, she's right. He's right. And you can pause right there in that moment. It doesn't have to be a whole conversation that's over and y'all done blew up at each other and now you got to come back together. You can call it out in that moment because you have the language, because you guys have talked about it and you shared those things. I don't like when you do this to me. It makes me feel like this.
Another piece too is in those moments where y'all are having these tough conversations. One thing that we do is, um, if she bringing something to me, I let her get it out, uninterrupted. I'm hearing I'm listening to what she's saying, to hear and understand what she's saying first, and not just to respond. And let her get everything out. And then, if I have something that I can say without um, being too, I guess you could say, emotional, or without having to really put too much thought into it, that's healthy.
Yeah.
Healthy and validating what she's first validate what she's saying, and then respond in a healthy way without, in that moment, if I can, without processing. To vice versa, when she talking and I hear something, well, no, this is so. What we do, if she brings something to me, I'm okay. Go ahead, and then she finish. If I can healthily respond, I'm going to respond by validating first, and then okay. So, and then if we feel like it's still getting too high, then we be like, okay, well, I need to process, or we'll put a pin in it and we'll come back later. I think that just, again, another healthy way to communicate and have those hard conversations, because they're always going to be there. You know what I'm saying? Because as your marriage grows, so do you, and you're evolving. So you're not always going to feel the same way about the same things.
So you gotta have another conversation.
So you got to have another conversation. So something might change, and y'all ain't had a conversation about it. So again, just building a healthy communication style is also a good way to make sure that as you evolve and grow in your marriage and your friendship and your relationship, emotionally, spiritually, physically, that's going to help that to segue into those different times in your life where you have evolved from what you were prior to where you are now.
Yeah, and it's okay to put a pin in it. We don't gotta. We is not gonna solve it all tonight.
You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, we can come back to it. And so I want to shift to some of our assumptions to this barrier that has to do with like our dirty filters when we have past trauma or we have past relationships. And sometimes we come to the space with a dirty filter. And so everything that you're saying is being filtered through my stuff. And so I want to just share two strategies for that. And these come from the workplace. So again, effective communication is effective communication. The first strategy is called deep lure, and what that is getting clarity around the words that we're using. So what we mean when we say that. Because if we don't have the same understanding of the language that we're using, it's automatically going to be conflict. And so, just a quick, what do you mean when you say, right? So, if Nita said, I really need to do this today. What is the I'm trying to think of something you'd have told me about me. And I'm like, what you mean by that? So, anything you might have said I was flirting with somebody or oh, look, I don't want to tell my business.
No, you heard now. Don't tell it.
So basically, getting clarity around what each other means when we say certain words. So if I say, you don't take me seriously. Needed somebody to not tell it. You don't take me seriously. What do you mean when you say that? Instead of assuming I know what he means when he says that, right?
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You got any examples that?
Or
These are usually like words that come from our own experiences. It could be words from our childhood. It could be words from other relationships that we've had. And there was a very distinct understanding of that word in that context. And we're bringing that understanding with us into this new relationship. And so making sure that when I say this, when I say cheating, that's a good word. Do you all have the same definition of cheating? Right?
yeah.
When you say
even flirting, it's the same definition of flirting.
Right, because you be flirting all the time.
That's true. But that's a good one though, because she says I flirt all the time, but I don't. I'm a people person. She's not really, and she's not mean, but she's not, what I'm saying, right, sociable. Like she's an introvert.
I'm a little mean.
You know what I'm saying?
Which people don't believe me.
She's an introvert.
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert. So I'm kissing babies and shaking hands. So she feels like I be flirting, but that's just me. I'm like that way. Even she just said, "What was we at?" You said, "Oh my God, he over there making a new friend." I was talking to an older gentleman, and we were just having general conversation.
Talking to everybody.
So like I be telling her, I be like, "No, I'm just being me. Like I'm naturally sociable."
So de-blurring, basically.
So somebody, what do you mean I'm flirting?
If your partner says a word or says something to you, instead of assuming you know what they mean by that, ask them to clarify. What do you mean when you say that? Especially if something that Chris said, do you have a brother named Willie? Especially if they say it all the time, right? They say it all the time and it's the source of friction for y'all. And every time they say it, y'all get into an argument. Take the time to say, what do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
The other one is a playback. Now, this was a huge eye opener for me. We did this in therapy. Playback is when you tell your partner something and then they have to tell you back what they heard. Yes, Catrice, absolutely. So I spend 3 minutes telling you how I feel, and then you tell me, now what did you hear? What I heard you say was, make your partner play back what you have just said. Because I guarantee you'll
be surprised.
If you all are having communication issues, I guarantee you they are not hearing what you're saying.
You will be shocked.
I was blown away with his responses. I didn't know who he was listening to. I was like,
first of all, hold on.
I did not just say that. Like, that is not what I said.
Hold on, slow down, my
But that's what.
Nah, they wasn't that bad. They was. So, let me see. How can I say this? They wasn't that bad.
They was off. Like, what? That is not what I said. His filter was dirty. And so I was talking, and he was hearing me through his past trauma, through past relationships, through his own assumptions and judgments. and what he was giving back to me was completely different than what I was trying to communicate. So of course we're not going to reach clarity. He's not hearing what I'm saying. So I would say it again. No, this is what I say. And then he say, so, and he'll say the same thing. I'm like, oh my God. That's where we need some new skills. Like we need to bring in some other skills. So that's when we're talking about eye language and these other tools to help achieve clarity, because in the playback, this is the barrier right here. Your filter is so dirty you can't even hear me clearly.
I'm gonna let you have
that. So make sure y'all do a playback. If y'all are having she said how you mess up a 2-person game of telephone. Baby, it's
you'd be surprised. I'm trying to told you.
Listen, he was hearing his own insecurities. He was hearing what he thought I believed about him. He was hearing all of this stuff in my words, and I'm like, baby, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Do a playback, y'all. We talked about eye language. Eye language is very important, and it's also important to focus on the behavior, not the person. So when you're expressing yourself using eye language, focus on the behavior and the impact of that behavior. So it's not what you did to me, right? It is when you said, I felt. When you did, I felt.
Eye language.
When this happened, right? So maybe not even you. When this happened, this is how it made me feel. And it doesn't become a you did this to me. It becomes a this behavior and this choice made me feel like this, because that gives the person an opportunity to make a different choice. If all of your feelings is rooted in who that person is and not what they did, then it doesn't give them an opportunity to make a different choice. So it's like, well, dang, do you want to be with me or not? Because you're telling me that as a person, I make you miserable. So what other options do I have? So you focus on the behavior that the individual did, not the individual as a person.
Mm-hmm. And I think that just goes back to because when you focus on the individual, now you're saying that they are their mistake. This is who they are.
Yeah.
And they don't get a chance to really have the abandonment issues that they experienced, or the rejection issues, or the mama issues, or the daddy issues. They don't get to really have that same opportunity to work through that stuff. It's absolute. Again, this is another way to avoid being absolute in those situations, when you focus on the behavior and not the person, because you're saying, yeah, you are your rejection issues because you did this to me. You are your abandonment issues. Like, that's, again, not affirm. I ain't gonna say affirming them, but it's not,
Well, yeah.
it would be the same as, not affirming them. So the focus on the behaviors is definitely more of a way to, okay, dang, let me look at that. Where did that behavior come from? It focuses on the behavior and makes them focus on getting to the root of where that behavior came from in the first place. And now you have to do all the work on the inside of yourself to get to that. And then on the way to that one behavior, you might discover the roots to some other stuff that, what I'm saying, piggyback off of that one.
Separating the person from behavior. I like that. Now I can uncover the root of the behavior, because like you said, it's not, I'm not this bad person. I'm a person who's making certain choices, and those choices are impacting my partner. So now I need to find the root of those choices. But it's not, I'm not my mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm redeemable, right? It makes the person redeemable. We only have a couple more. Crystal said part 2 and 3. This is a hot topic. It takes a minute to unpack. What is really important as well is creating rules of engagement. This was huge for us.
Yeah.
Create your rules of engagement. Yes, absolutely, Catrice. Um, what are the expectations when you all come together? Um, we now know that one rule of engagement is it's a tech-free zone. When we come together to talk, the TV is off, the phones are down, we are undivided attention.
Mm-hmm.
Phil needs closure to the conversation. I know that about him. If I just stop talking or I just turn over and go to bed, oh, he gonna feel away, and I'm gonna hear it the next day. That is one of his needs, and that's a rule of our engagement. Even if it's just, well, thank you for sharing. You know, good night. He needs closure to the conversation.
And she needs the affirmation of the validation of her feelings in the congregation. So that rule in itself is like it gives so much to those hard conversations just by alone, you know what I'm saying? Just affirming those feelings, because now that person feels heard, they feel seen, they feel safe to share. And it just get again space to be more vulnerable and open up to those tough conversations.
Another one is that's huge for him is me verbalizing when I don't want to talk instead of just saying nothing. I'm okay. That I'm not. I can't do that. Right. I can't tell him I'm okay, and he knows I'm not okay. That's not okay for him. And so if I need space, I need time to process. Then the expectation is that I verbalize that. I don't want to talk about it right now. Yes, I feel away. Yes, I'm in my feelings. Yes, I'm mad, but I don't want to talk about it. He can deal with that. He can't deal with me saying I'm good, and he knows that I'm not.
Mm-hmm. That's violation. She was good at that.
Man, what? I'm good.
She was good.
That's that push pull. That's that push.
Gaslighting.
That's not gaslighting. Now you reach it.
You don't think that's gaslighting?
No, it is my anxious. It is my fearful avoidant attachment where I want you to chase me. I want you to come after me. But when you come after me, I'm saying I don't need you. Mm-hmm. But what I really want you to do is to continue. Y'all, I'm gonna put these attachment style quiz. I want y'all to take it. You ain't gotta tell me what you got if you don't want to. But I'm just telling you, I already know. I knew what I was before I took the quiz because I already know my stuff. Yes, Crystal. And lastly, as we wrap up, create space for regular communication. So y'all don't want to be talking always when it's an issue. Mm-hmm. That should not be y'all's communication dynamic. The only time we come together and sit at the table, or the only time we sit up in the bed, the only time we sit on the couch, wherever y'all talking space is where there's a problem. That is a barrier to effective communication in itself. You all need to be regularly coming together and having conversations. Don't just talk about problems. Talk about your dreams. Mm-hmm. Talk about your goals. Talk about your vision for the future. Talk about your children, your day, whatever. But there needs to be regular space for you all to connect. And that's what we're going to talk about next week is how do you stay connected as you grow and evolve into these different people? How do you stay connected? And regular communication is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Even, how when you go to church, you hear your pastor say, you ought not only pray when it's a problem. Mm-hmm. That's the same mindset you should have when it comes to communication with your significant other. Like, just in passing, what's up, you good? What's up? What you thinking about? Like, they sitting there and they ain't doing nothing, they just staring off into space, or they just, what's on your mind? You all right? How was your day? Just talk about something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know with her, she, sometimes come in and be like, man, these folks. And I'll be like, oh, it's some tea. So let me go get me something to drink. And let's come together and let's sit down and talk. So, you know what I'm saying? I know that's the time for, and then, that transition to us having a conversation about, whatever. But, just any type of communication is good communication. Just remember that because you're talking, and when people talk, you don't know where the conversation leads to.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep the lines of communication open and flowing.
And sometimes that means getting out of your regular space. And
Mm-hmm.
so a barrier to effective communication could be your house. If you have lots of people at your house, if you got kids at your house, if you have you work from home, and so you're constantly looking at signals, the laundry ain't done, the dishes need to be reorganized. Like sometimes the barrier is your space, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that means getting out of your regular day to day space,
Your comfort zone.
because it's an interruption. That
Mm-hmm.
is an interruption in it of itself. If you trying to talk, if you have the kind of kids that don't understand mommy and daddy time, and they knocking on the door, and I'm hungry, and
Mm-hmm.
that is a barrier to effective communication. You need to get out of that space, right?
Cause
New
we be
scenery, and
quick,
that's
like
why
y'all get out.
we're gonna talk about traveling together too. The next time we talk about how to stay connected, that's why traveling is so powerful. But we got a little cigar lounge that when we were really needing to like come together, that was our spot. And we would go down there and we get a cigar, we get us a drink, and we sit on the couch, and that's where we talked. We didn't have to worry about the kids overhearing us or nothing like that. But it was a change of scenery. And so sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah, yeah, cause we ain't got no problem telling our kids to get out, go find something to do, just leave us alone. But I think that is very important because again, especially if you're a person that don't like to go nowhere, that's also a barrier. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Like you have to get out of your comfort zone
come on.
and be uncomfortable. That's when there's the most growth, when you are uncomfortable. So leave, go somewhere, even if it ain't just to the park and sit in the car and talk. You know what I'm saying? Like that's still a place where you are not somewhere where you are comfortable or familiar with. So you're forcing yourself to evolve and do something different.
Different, yeah.
So
To get a
yeah,
different result.
yeah.
You want a different result, you got to do something you never done. To
Mm.
get something you never had, you got to do something you never did.
Cause and effect, because if you keep doing the same thing, the effect is the same. You do something different,
They say
the
that's the
effect is gonna
definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
yeah, that is true.
Well, you got any closing comments about
Uh,
communication? I just feel like, where do you think we are now on our scale of 1 to 10? Where do you think we are with being able to communicate effectively? Where do you
mm,
think we were in 2020? And where do you think we are now? Because I want to do growth.
uh,
We'll focus on the growth.
2020 was probably like three,
I'm about to say, yeah, 4.
three. Now we probably like 7, 8 ish.
8. Yeah, okay, we're on the same page, right? Well, we will do a summary. I'll probably do a recap video, a couple minutes. Um, I'm so excited. Nina, make sure you all drop your questions if you have specific questions, because
Yeah.
we're just sharing just generally what kind of stands out, comes to mind for us. If you have specific questions, I saw a few comments about specific barriers that you're having right now, but inbox us. It doesn't even have to. It could be anonymous. If you don't want anyone
Mm-hmm.
to know that this was your specific question or need or issue, we want to create that space where you feel like you can be vulnerable with us. That's why we're telling you what we struggle with, what we are always seeking to improve, because this space is so needed and it's so necessary. And so, on a handout or a flyer, I'm hollering.
I'm screaming, and
Yes, Nina,
I
I put it
want
together.
people to understand, like this is what helped us. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Works for us.
Mhm.
Everybody is different. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? That's why we're giving you different scenarios and different styles. You have to find what works in your household. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I think one thing that we are experiencing in society today with a lot of relationships, everybody knows what's best for your relationship.
Mm.
Nobody can tell you how to be in your relationship. You have to figure out what it is that you need, what you want, and what you will not accept.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is what helps us. Some of these things we're giving you is what helped us in these different situations. So again, play with a lot of this stuff. See what helps y'all. See what's comfortable for y'all. See what may not work for y'all. Then don't go back to it. But just what I'm saying, find the happy, healthy medium for you and yours.
Yeah, and it did take some for us, even some
Yeah.
trial and error.
Yeah.
Because there was some stuff our therapist talking about. I was like,
Nah, we cool,
sis,
player. Nah, we going
that ain't for us.
nah.
But we hope that you all found this helpful. Make sure you share the live, send it to somebody's messenger. If you think they would appreciate it. Again, if you're watching a replay, put Life in the Gray, hashtag Life in the Gray in the comments. We're coming back next week. We're going to talk more about the communication, specifically around how to stay connected and in sync as you all grow and evolve and mature. Tell a friend, make sure you like and follow the page. And we thank y'all for hanging out with us tonight. So
yeah, we appreciate y'all. Again, questions, comments, concerns, rude noises, put them in the inbox, messages, comments, whatever. Let us know.
Good night, y'all.
We gotta do Instagram too.